Okay, so welcome back everyone to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging headfirst into a world where identity, well, it feels less like something you are
No.
and more like a project you constantly have to build, especially under, intense financial and social pressure. We're digging into a collection of sources today, all centered on these really electric narratives from Danielle Evans. We're focusing on how her characters, particularly young women, grapple with the high cost of just being seen.
That's right. And our goal here isn't just to retell stories, it's more about synthesis. We're kind of treating these very personal character journeys as, let's say, case studies and navigating some serious complexity. The key thing we're trying to unpack is how all these external expectations from family, community, even just your bank balance, really force these protagonists to craft new identities. And often that means using lies, sometimes rebellion, or even, calculated sacrifice.
Yeah, and you listening, you'll probably pick up right away how compelling this material is. Evans has this incredibly sharp, sometimes genuinely funny way of observing things, but it often masks these really deep social and emotional tensions underneath. It's the kind of writing that makes you understand why someone makes a certain choice, even when it looks pretty destructive from the outside.
Okay, so let's maybe start unpacking this with the idea of geography, how where you are physically kind of defines your status and maybe it limits what you think is possible. Like in the story Virgins, the setting does so much work immediately. You've got the stark contrast between their life in the Mount Vernon apartment buildings and then the symbol of privilege they interact with. Mr. Thompson's backyard pool. That pool just hangs there as this symbol of access, something they can see but can't really have.
Right. And it's not just the place itself dictating status, is it? It's also about the connections you make outside that place. You see that character, Michael. He talks about dating white girls from Bronxville, and it's so clearly positioned as proof that he's, quote, moved on. Relationships become like social currency for him, a way to signal he's leaving, even if he's still physically there.
Precisely. And that impulse to reposition yourself socially, it directly fuels this choice some characters make to just adopt a completely false identity. Think about Erica and Jasmine heading into Manhattan. They literally rename themselves Serene and Alexis. They cook up this whole backstory, college fashion major, visiting friend. It's pure invention.
Creating a version of themselves they think the city wants, or maybe needs.
Yeah, elevating their status just through sheer aspiration. Saying it makes it almost real for a moment.
Okay, so if that's identity built on aspirational lies, then the story Snakes gives us something different. It shows identity being warped by family pressure, the need to keep up this elite facade. The lies become generational almost.
Oh, absolutely. And what's really striking there is how far the grandmother, Lydia, goes. I mean, telling people at the fancy Palisade Hills Country Club that her own granddaughter, Tara, was adopted from Brazil.
Wow.
It's a stunning choice. It suggests that for this particular slice of the elite, maybe history doesn't matter as much as present-day image. You can just erase it, invent something else. And if you dig a bit deeper, you see her control issues, even lying about, imaginary Burmese pythons in the lake to keep the kids nearby. They seem rooted in her own past trauma. Her own daughter, Amanda, wasn't there during the grandfather's death, wasn't there during Lydia's cancer. So these lies, this control, it feels like a defense mechanism born out of this deep fear of abandonment, of losing everything else.
It's heavy stuff. Whether it's inventing a new past for the country club set or a new identity for a trip to the city, there's always this price tag attached to self-invention, isn't there? Which actually leads us perfectly from social maneuvering to the really stark economic realities that underpin almost every single choice these characters face. It's a world where bodies, identities, they feel like commodities.
Absolutely. That economic thread is just pulled so tight, especially in Harvest. Here, we're confronted with the literal dollars and cents value placed on genetic material. It's brutal. The story lays out the egg donation market really clearly, and it functions like this highly selective genetic lottery.
Yeah, you have the protagonist's friend, Laura Kelso. She's got the right packet, right?
Yeah.
Blonde, blue-eyed, top scorers.
Yeah.
And she's making serious money selling her eggs. And then her friends are just watching, knowing their own genetic makeup isn't what the market wants. It creates this really uncomfortable, quantifiable hierarchy based on race and class, basically.
And then for Angel, the protagonist, her unexpected pregnancy,
Yeah.
it immediately becomes, and this is a quote, a math problem. That's how she frames it. She ends up taking money from Laura because she simply can't afford the baby. The decision to terminate gets stripped of, well, almost everything except the financial calculation.
Leading to that devastating line.
Yeah. Money should be the difference between a baby and not a baby. It cuts right through everything, doesn't it? Leaves you with just the cold, hard numbers.
Speaking of identities kind of failing and spreadsheets,
Hmm.
let's talk about the king of a vast empire.
Mm.
This one presents maybe the weirdest identity puzzle, and it's centered entirely on finance. The narrator finds out someone named Carlos Aguilar is using their social security number.
Okay.
Pattern identity theft, right? Okay.
Then it gets really strange because Carlos is actually improving the narrator's credit score. He's making timely payments.
Seriously. So wait,
Yeah. So the narrator feels, quote, vaguely flattered, which is just bizarre.
it completely flips the script, doesn't it? Like, is Carlos even the bad guy here?
Well-
It suggests the narrator's own financial identity was maybe tanking, and this other person, maybe an undocumented immigrant trying to build a life, is actually managing it better.
Exactly. The story makes you question who you should even be rooting for or blaming. It mirrors that messy reality where things aren't black and white, and sometimes, weirdly, even something like identity theft can have an upside.
That ambiguity, that messiness.
Yeah.
It feels like a good bridge to talking about the emotional side of things. Specifically, how characters navigate these really complicated, sometimes traumatic relationships. Bonds that anger them, maybe, even when they're kind of toxic.
Yeah, we definitely see that in Wherever You Go, There You Are. It focuses on Carla and her younger cousin, Chrissy. And Chrissy's going through a lot. Her grandfather just died. Her parents are splitting up. And she has this intense anxiety about sex and her body, this fear of being broken.
And the family dynamic around them is just layered with these managed appearances, right?
Yeah.
Like Aunt Edie pretending her other daughter, Tia, is a nursing student.
When she's actually a stripper. Yeah, it's this constant effort to project normalcy, to kind of insulate themselves from the difficult truths of their lives. It seems exhausting.
But the real emotional core, for me at least, was Carla's feeling about it all. She admits she's absurdly jealous of Chrissy's raw neediness. Because, as she puts it, there is not a single person in the world my mere presence will comfort right now. Chrissy's crisis gives Carla a chance to feel needed, essential, a purpose she feels like she's lost.
That lack of genuine connection, or maybe the inability to connect honestly, we see that mirrored in the father-daughter relationship in Jellyfish, too. Between William and Eva, William tries this kind of clumsy attempt at reconciliation. He brings Eva this old box of her childhood photos, school pictures, recitals. He's trying to reach the daughter he remembers.
Right, but he's reaching for an idealized past, isn't he? He seems unable, or maybe unwilling, to really engage with the Eva who exists now. This woman who, bit a kid in high school for getting on her nerves, who works in a sex toy and bookstore. She sees his inaction, his inability to protect her or guide her, and she calls him a jellyfish.
It's such a powerful image. That bond feels traumatic precisely because they're both sort of clinging to these fictionalized versions of each other, unable to bridge the gap to who they've actually become.
Okay, so this friction, this difficulty finding purpose or recognition through, let's say, normal channels, it seems to push characters towards more extreme actions. Which brings us, I think, to our final theme, this idea of self-assertion through rebellion, through defiance, and the often destructive price that comes with it.
Yeah, let's dive into Robert E. Lee is Dead. This story tracks Crystal's transformation. She starts as antisocial and becomes Cece, largely under the influence of her friend Gina. There's this palpable desire to matter, to be seen by these privileged kids around her.
And they come up with this plan, which is actually kind of brilliant in a messed up way. Vandalize their own school, Robert E. Lee High, but use the colors of the rival school, Stonewall Jackson. The goal.
Right. The goal was that Stonewall would get fined, and because of some specific school policy Mrs. Peterson had, that fine money would actually go into Lee's activity budget.
So it's not just random destruction, it's like weaponized vandalism.
Yeah.
Strategic rebellion aimed at manipulating the system to benefit them, ironically.
But the moment that really lands, I think, isn't the calculated part. It's when Crystal spray paints that message on the grass. You are not as special as you think you are. That feels personal. It's this direct address to the entitlement surrounding her, a rejection of the whole system that keeps her feeling unseen.
And then disaster strikes. The accidental fire, paint thinner, a cigarette. The whole thing goes sideways fast.
And Gina makes that split-second choice, tells Crystal to run, stays behind by the payphone, basically sacrifices herself.
Yeah. That act of self-destruction, Gina's sacrifice, is what ultimately gives Crystal her freedom, her visibility, but at a terrible cost.
And you see echoes of that, maybe less dramatically, but that same need for recognition driving questionable choices in someone ought to tell her there's nowhere to go. Georgie feels this immense guilt, haunted by the memory of those slain Iraqi sisters, one missing teeth, and he feels so powerless.
So he lies.
Mm-hmm.
Tells Annie, the manicurist, that he's an active soldier, just to get that moment of
Oh.
respect,
Yeah.
admiration, validation.
Yeah. Just a moment where his story makes him seem important, heroic even.
It highlights the vulnerability in all these characters, doesn't it? Whether it's Georgie needing that story or like the kids in another story just desperately wanting those $70 Mindy concert tickets. It shows how easily validation can be chased or lied for. The need to be seen seems to override almost everything else.
It really does.
So wrapping this all up, thinking about what this means for you, the listener, I think the big takeaway from this deep dive is how often agency for these characters seems to come tangled up with destruction. Destruction of reputation, maybe, or relationships, or even just the comfort they'd carefully built for themselves.
Exactly. The sources consistently suggest that sometimes, maybe often, self-sabotage or a destructive act is the clearest path to getting noticed, or maybe the only way to escape a situation that feels impossible. As one story puts it, some characters seem less afraid of the fall than what else they thought awaited. The unknown future feels scarier than the definite risk right in front of them.
Which leaves us with this final kind of provocative thought for you to mull over. Think about the irony here. If people only seem to truly see these characters when they're at rock bottom or when they're actively deceiving everyone, what does that really say about connection? Is self-destruction somehow the most reliable way to become fully visible in this world? We saw a character jump off a bunk bed just hoping it would bring her parents home. Another trying to burn down her school to make people notice her value.
Yeah, it's a universe where taking the biggest risk often feels like the only way forward. Definitely something worth thinking about.